Democracy is under attack. In many parts of the world, the very foundation of democratic governance is being eroded. The principles that uphold free and fair elections are being systematically dismantled. Around the world, elections are being rigged. Ballot boxes are tampered with, and votes are manipulated to favor those in power. This isn't just a problem in developing nations, it's a global issue that affects us all. Authoritarian leaders are clinging to power. They use every tool at their disposal to maintain their grip on their countries. From manipulating media to deploying military force, they stop at nothing to stay in control. They manipulate the system to get what they want. They silence their opponents, political debates turn into shouting matches, and dissent is met with brutal crackdowns. The voices of the people are drowned out by the roar of authoritarianism. They lie to their people. Propaganda is spread to create confusion and mistrust. Fake news becomes a tool to control the narrative and keep the populace in the dark about the true state of affairs. This is a global crisis. From Asia to Africa, Europe to the Americas, no region is immune. The struggle for democracy is universal, and the threats it faces are interconnected. We need to understand how it happens. By studying the methods used to undermine elections, we can better prepare to defend against them. Election observers and analysts play a crucial role in identifying and exposing these tactics. We need to fight back. Activists around the world are standing up for fair elections. They are organizing rallies, educating voters, and demanding transparency and accountability from their governments. The tactics used to rig elections are varied and insidious. They range from outright fraud to more sophisticated methods that are harder to detect. Some are blatant, like stuffing ballot boxes. This is a direct and obvious way to alter the outcome of an election, but it's not the only method used. Others are more subtle, like gerrymandering districts. By redrawing electoral boundaries, those in power can ensure their continued dominance, effectively disenfranchising large segments of the population. But they all have the same goal: to undermine the will of the people, whether through overt or covert means. The objective is to subvert democracy and maintain control. This isn't just happening in far-off countries, it's happening here too. Even in established democracies, the integrity of elections is under threat. We must recognize that no nation is immune. We need to be vigilant. Monitoring elections closely and ensuring that security measures are in place is essential. Every vote must be counted and every voice must be heard. We need to call out these abuses of power. Public awareness and outcry are powerful tools in the fight against election fraud. By shining a light on these issues, we can hold those responsible accountable. The future of democracy depends on it. The fight for fair elections is a fight for the very soul of our societies. Together we can ensure that democracy not only survives, but thrives for generations to come. Lawfare is a dangerous game. It's the manipulation of legal systems for political ends. Authoritarian regimes are masters at it. They use the law to silence their critics. They target journalists, activists, and opposition leaders. They create laws that criminalize dissent. They stack the courts with loyalists. They make it impossible for their opponents to get a fair hearing. This is how they stay in power. They use the law as a weapon. Lawfare is insidious because it looks legitimate, but it's anything but. It's a perversion of justice. It's a threat to democracy. We need to expose it for what it is. We need to hold these regimes accountable. Control the information, control the people. This simple yet powerful idea has been the cornerstone of many authoritarian regimes throughout history. That's the motto of authoritarian regimes. They know that by controlling the flow of information, they can shape public perception and maintain their grip on power. They understand the power of the media. The media is not just a tool for communication, it is a weapon that can be wielded to influence minds and control narratives. They use it to spread their propaganda. Through carefully crafted messages, they can manipulate the truth and present a version of reality that serves their interests. They suppress any dissenting voices. Any form of opposition is quickly silenced, ensuring that only the regime's narrative is heard. State-run media becomes a mouthpiece for the regime. These channels broadcast only what the government wants the public to know, creating a controlled and sanitized version of events. Independent journalists are harassed, jailed, or worse. The internet is censored. Websites that challenge the official narrative are blocked, and online dissent is monitored and punished. Social media is flooded with disinformation. Fake news and misleading information are spread by bots and trolls, creating confusion and mistrust. It's a relentless assault on the truth, and it's incredibly effective. People are bombarded with so much false information that it becomes difficult to discern what is real and what is not. People are bombarded with lies. The constant stream of misinformation creates a sense of confusion and helplessness. They become distrustful of any information that challenges the official narrative. This skepticism is exactly what authoritarian regimes want, as it prevents people from questioning their authority. This is how dictatorships thrive. By controlling the narrative and creating an environment of fear and confusion, they can maintain their power and suppress any opposition. They create a climate of fear and confusion. This atmosphere makes it difficult for people to organize and resist, as they are constantly second-guessing what they know to be true. We need to be critical thinkers. In a world where disinformation is rampant, it is more important than ever to question the sources of our information and think critically about what we are told. We need to get our information from reliable sources, seek out news from reputable outlets, and cross-check facts to ensure their accuracy. We need to support independent journalism. Independent journalists play a crucial role in holding those in power accountable and providing the public with truthful information. The truth is out there, but it requires effort to find it. We must be diligent in our search for accurate information, but we have to fight for it. The battle for truth is ongoing, and it requires all of us to be vigilant and proactive in seeking out and defending the facts. Imagine a game where the rules are constantly changing. One moment the goalposts are here, and the next they've moved. The players are confused, the fans are frustrated, and the outcome seems rigged from the start, where the referees are on the other team's payroll, making calls that favor one side over the other. It's not just unfair, it's a betrayal of the very essence of the game. That's what it's like to have an election in a country where gerrymandering and voter suppression are rampant. Voters stand in long lines, their patience tested, their voices stifled. Gerrymandering is the manipulation of electoral boundaries. It's a strategic game played by politicians to secure their power, often at the expense of fair representation. It's about drawing lines on a map to give one party an unfair advantage. These lines twist and turn, creating districts that look more like abstract art than logical divisions of communities. It's about silencing the votes of certain communities. By splitting or packing voters into specific districts, their collective power is diluted, their voices diminished. Voter suppression is even more blatant. It's a direct attack on the democratic process, aimed at making it harder for people to exercise their right to vote. It's about making it harder for people to vote. Long lines, confusing paperwork, and limited polling hours are just a few of the tactics used to discourage voters. It's about purging voter rolls, closing polling places, and requiring unnecessary ID. These tactics are undemocratic, they're un-American, they undermine the very foundation of our democracy. They're an assault on our fundamental right to vote. When people are denied this right, the entire system suffers. Democracy thrives on participation, on the voices of the many, not the few. We need to fight back against these efforts to rig the system. Activists are already on the ground, canvassing neighborhoods, raising awareness and gathering support. We need to demand fair maps and equal access to the ballot box. It's not just about one election, it's about the future of our democracy. Every vote should count and every voice should be heard. Together, we can ensure that our elections are free, fair, and accessible to all. Vote buying is a cancer on democracy. It's the act of exchanging goods or services for votes, and it's a way for the powerful to buy their way into office. It preys on the vulnerable. It undermines the integrity of our elections. In some countries, vote buying is blatant. Politicians hand out cash, food, or other goods in exchange for votes. In other countries, it's more subtle. Politicians might offer jobs, contracts, or other favors to those who vote for them. No matter how it's done, vote buying is wrong. It corrupts the democratic process. It silences the voices of those who can't or won't sell their votes. We need to stand up against this practice. We need to demand free and fair elections. Ballot stuffing is the most blatant form of election rigging. It's the act of fraudulently adding votes to the ballot box. It's a desperate attempt to cling to power. It's a sign of a weak and illegitimate regime. Ballot stuffing can take many forms. Sometimes ballots are printed illegally. Sometimes people are paid to vote multiple times. Sometimes polling places are stuffed with fake ballots. No matter how it's done, ballot stuffing is a crime. It's a violation of the public trust. It undermines the legitimacy of our elections. We need to be vigilant against this practice. We need to demand transparency and accountability in our electoral systems. The international community often turns a blind eye to election rigging. Why? Because there's money to be made, because there are strategic interests at stake, because it's easier to look the other way. Powerful countries often support authoritarian regimes that rig elections. They provide them with aid, weapons, and diplomatic cover. They turn a blind eye to human rights abuses. They prioritize their own interests over the rights of others. This hypocrisy is shameful. It undermines the credibility of the international community. It sends a message that democracy doesn't matter. We need to hold these countries accountable. We need to demand that they support free and fair elections around the world. Democracy is precious, it's fragile, it's under attack. We can't take it for granted. We need to fight for it. We need to defend it. We need to educate ourselves about the tactics used to rig elections. We need to call out these abuses of power. We need to support organizations that are working to promote democracy around the world. We need to vote. We need to make our voices heard. We need to hold our elected officials accountable. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires our active participation. The future of democracy depends on us. Let's not let it down.
So hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.